In number 5 through 8, we need to solve for x. So number 5, it's a setup similar to Pythagorean theorem. So we need to solve for x. So I'm going to square both of these numbers. Remember when you are squaring 2 root 2, we need to put that in parentheses so that the calculator knows that we want both of those numbers squared. So 2 root 2 squared is 8. So we would have x squared plus 8 equals 36. We can subtract 8 from both sides, so we get x squared equals 28. Take the square root of both sides. Now, because it's not a geometry problem, it's just an algebra problem, we need to have the plus or the minus sign with our square root. 28 breaks down to 4 and 7. 4 breaks down to 2 and 2. So x would equal plus or minus 2 root 7. In number 6, in order to solve, I need to get everything to the higher x squared side, so the 4x squared side. So I'm going to subtract 3x squared from both sides, and I'm going to add 45 to both sides. So we would get x squared minus 14x plus 45 equals 0. In order to factor, we need to know what multiplies to 45 and adds to negative 14. So we'd have x minus 9 and x minus 5 equals 0. Now, because we're solving for x, remember we have to use the zero product property, so we can flip the signs. So x would equal positive 9, and x would equal positive 5. Number 7, I want to get it to the x squared side, so I'm going to move negative 20, I'm going to subtract 20x from both sides. 4x squared minus 32x equals 0. Now, this one doesn't have a number constant, so we need to factor by GCF. So we need to pull out the greatest common factor. So both of these are divisible by 4 and an x. So our greatest common factor is 4x. When I take 4x out of 4x squared, I'm left with just x. And when I take 4x out of 32x, I get negative 8 equals 0. So I still need to solve for x, so I would have 4x equals 0, x is 0. X minus 8 equals 0, so x is 8. In number 8, we need to factor using split the middle. So what happens here is we need to figure out what numbers multiply to negative 60, because we want to multiply the first coefficient and the last number. So that's negative 60, and they need to add to 11 still. So two numbers that multiply to negative 60 and add to 11 are negative 15, are positive 15 and 4. So we'd have 5x squared plus 15x minus 4x minus 12 equals 0. Now we need to factor out a GCF from the first two terms. So both of them have a 5x in common. So we would be left with x plus 3 in parentheses. Now, when we are factoring the second two terms, we want to get that last parenthesis to look the same with x plus 3. So in order to get that, we need to take out a GCF of negative 4. So we would be left with x plus 3 in parentheses. Then, each number that's a coefficient is going to go in the parentheses, so 5x minus 4. The parenthesis that repeats is going to be written once. And then we solve for x, so we'd have 5x minus 4 equals 0. So we can add 4 to both sides and divide. So x is 4/5. And then we'd have x plus 3 equals 0. So we can subtract 3 from both sides, so x equals negative 3.